Ah yes, DLCs, downloadable contents. I'm sure we all had gripes with at least a number of them in our lifetimes. Some of them arguably being things that are pay to win, giving you a clear advantage that you're unable to obtain by playing a game you paid full price for. Or maybe like with Tekken 7, introducing the most broken DLC character, only to nerf him at a later point after enticing enough people to buy him. On the other hand, a lot of the time, you have just purely cosmetic downloadable content like a different costume for a character, or in-game item bundles that give you something of a head start with a few items that you're normally able to obtain just fine by playing the game. Yakuza has had something of an interesting DLC history that dates back further than a lot of people seem to unfortunately think. I see a lot of people claim that Yakuza has been recently ruined by DLC, some people claiming even that the DLC it has now is pay to win, which, as you will learn by watching the video, I beg to differ with. If anything, the situation with the Yakuza DLC at the moment is just the same as the very first instance, if not better. Though there is one small exception in the case of Like a Dragon Ishin, which I will be talking about later. Nowadays, when people think about Yakuza DLC, most people seem to think back to Yakuza 6, probably 90% of the time, with how it introduced all of the Clan Creator DLC, which was a new minigame at the time introduced with Yakuza 6. Clan Creator is basically a minigame where you try to gather troops to fight for you against other gangs. I pretty much already implied this, but I do want to repeat it just to put a bit of an emphasis on it. It absolutely pains me seeing only the recent Yakuza games get any blame for introducing DLCs and ruining them, I guess, when they've been a thing ever since the original Yakuza 3, which, for us outside of Japan, would be the third entry we ever got, releasing in March 2010, a whole 13 years ago. And that's pretty damn early into the franchise's lifespan if you ask me. And compared to most of the DLCs that we get nowadays for the Yakuza games, the ones that came with Yakuza 3 really aren't that different. With today's video, I hope to go through every single Yakuza game that has ever had DLC and dissect exactly what it had to offer in terms of that. I think it's pretty important for someone out there to give the lowdown about something like this so that we're all well aware about the history of DLC with Yakuza, and so that we don't just go off and mindlessly rant about how DLC is a very recent thing with Yakuza and how it's ruining the games even though it's, again, just a very old thing with the franchise. The first few entries will probably be the most interesting out of everything in the video just because of how little people know about those compared to the others, since, well, you know, you only can access the PlayStation 3's PlayStation Store at this point if you have a functioning PlayStation 3, which I think a lot of us don't. I still remember a lot of my friends, like as soon as the PS4 came out, they hopped on that train, sold their PS3s and just bought a PS4 instantly, so a lot of people probably did the same with the PS5. And thanks to Sony just kind of abandoning the PlayStation 3 and the PS Vita stores and the PSP store, trying to find info on the PS3 games as DLCs requires a bit more digging than before. But anyway, that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with the very first Yakuza game that introduced DLCs, Yakuza 3. For the PS3 specifically. So Yakuza 3 originally came out in March 2010, as I just mentioned, and only on the PlayStation 3 at the time. This particular version of Yakuza is probably the most criminal release out of every other release in the franchise, just because of how much content it cut. That, plus what I'm about to tell you about what it did with the DLCs. So the cut content bit is probably more known than the DLC bit, but I will mention it regardless in case someone watching this doesn't know. So the English PlayStation 3 release of this game cut out 20 sub-stories, give or take, crippled hostess clubs to where you now just meet them straight at restaurant spots, which is weird, and they also cut out 4 minigames. Following with me so far? Good, because it gets worse. So moving on to the DLC segment of Yakuza 3, remember those good old extra modes that you were able to access in Purgatory by talking to the fortune teller? You know, Battle for Survival, Survival Tag, the tournaments with the story characters and all that? Yeah, well, guess what? The original Yakuza 3 locked those behind DLC, and not only that, DLC that was exclusive to a number of physical copies, and never made it to the freaking PlayStation Store. So instead, you had to hope that when you did get it physically, that the code was not expired, because it only lasted for like a year, and that is pathetically short. So like I said, the game came out in 2010. Now, what if you bought the game in 2011, like late 2011 or 2012? You were just screwed. I still remember back in the day, people would go on forums just to kind of try to find people with this DLC to get them to share their accounts with them, to be able to play that stuff. Which is insane, because if not for the remaster, this would have been considered a lost DLC for the most part. Unless, again, you were one of the lucky people with the physical release that happened to download the modes. So account sharing wasn't exactly the most safe thing. You had to be really careful who you shared your account with. And I just think that people really didn't need to go to such lengths to be able to get a certain piece of downloadable content. Keep in mind that all of this was free, completely free, with the Japanese release of the game. Another piece of DLC was the challenge pack, where you were able to play the very niche 2-player minigame mode, and you also got 4 costumes with it. This DLC was initially available only as a pre-order bonus, but later it became available on the store for about $4 to $5. So for whatever reason, I guess, maybe to follow new gaming trends or modern practices, Sega of America just decided to take chunks of the game that were completely free in the Japanese release and just make them DLC. Which, if you ask me, that is on par with something that Yakuza 7 or Yakuza Like a Dragon did, which we'll talk more about later. I know this is still very early into the video, but I would like to ask you, the viewer, 2 questions. 1, is this your first time hearing about this? 2, and this really only applies for not everyone, do you still think you can go on old good, new bad tirades? Because this really only proves otherwise. Don't get me wrong, we definitely did have a lot of questionable DLC as of late, which I will be talking about. I'm just really asking anyone with that mindset to keep an open mind when it comes to criticism and discussion of new games and DLCs. Because new equals bad is such a biased mindset, you're blinding yourself to a lot of potential precedents. Next up is Yakuza 4, originally releasing for the PlayStation 3 in March 2011. Now compared to Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4 didn't really cut much out except one minigame that comes to mind, which was very revolved around Japanese knowledge anyway. So let's move on to the DLC spectrum. Did it improve on the Yakuza 3 practices of DLC? It's kind of complicated. It did learn not to keep a DLC exclusive to just a number of physical copies, so that's an improvement, I guess. But weirdly enough, not with every region of the store. Having said that though, one of the DLCs for this game actually has a bit of false advertisement that I still remember falling for and being really confused about. So let's start with that DLC, the Yakuza 4 Upgrade Pack. This was a free DLC released on the PlayStation Store from a month to a few months after the game's launch, depending on what your store region is. Okay, so I want you to listen closely and tell me if you and I understand the same thing. Okay? Okay. Right, so it says, unlock your chance to increase your character's strength and stamina upgrade level even further. Okay, what did we understand from that, class? I'm gonna tell you what I understood from this, and you tell me if you understood anything else, okay? With this DLC, we should be able to go beyond level 20 for every playable character in the game. Are we on the same page? Right, well, no. Even though this DLC claims that you can go beyond level 20, you can do no such thing, which is very curious. Was this a case of mistranslation? What exactly happened here? Let's set this aside for now and read the rest. And build your relationship with Haruka to a higher level. Great. Just what I wanted. The last bit is the most interesting, and I honestly feel a bit ashamed for forgetting that this ever happened. As a bonus, unlock 2 new and unique karaoke songs. Yeah. Remember when people were up in arms about the whole Yakuza 7 DLC thing with the karaoke DLC, thinking that we actually had to pay to be able to access extra songs that the characters were able to sing, but then it turned out that it was just songs for the jukebox of the hideout? Remember how much hell people raised for that? I can only wonder what would have happened if those same people were around for this because, yikes. So if this were to ever happen in a future game, don't blame that game as hard as this game, because it turns out that future game was not the first. But, in hindsight, with all that being said, this was a free DLC. But, don't you think that makes the whole thing a bit weirder? Like, why would they even cut this out separately, or why wouldn't they just add it as part of an update? I'm just glad they completely dropped this practice, at least for now, before it became paid. Because as you can imagine, no one would like this, especially given how popular the karaoke minigame became. So you might be wondering, what are these two karaoke songs? These are I Wanna Change Myself for Haruka and Pure Love and Kamurocho with Akiyama and the epilogue version of Hana. And you can access both of the songs from the main menu. I also found an interesting tidbit in a YouTube video description by Ayosono Otakuman, I'm sorry if I butchered that. He mentions that you can unlock at least one of these songs by having Yakuza 3 save data, or alternatively, downloading the DLC. So you might be thinking, oh, it was just free DLC, Devil Leon 7, don't make such a big fuss over it. And for the most part, you are right. Though, there might still have been a percentage of people who didn't get access to these songs. Say for example, people who started with Yakuza 4 and didn't have access to the DLC until it launched on the store. And also remember, the whole DLC different store region thing didn't really make things convenient or consistent. So some people could have missed out on some content just because their store region didn't offer a certain piece of content. This goes for any game really. But anyway, let's just hope that going forward we're not gonna get any paid karaoke DLC songs. I did not jinx that. Next, we have the Yakuza 4 costume pack, and similar to the Yakuza 3 Extra Modes DLC, this one came out with some of the physical releases, but not all of them. However, unlike Yakuza 3's DLC, which just remained lost in time, this one launched on the PlayStation Store around the game's launch, but not in every region. From what I found, the US store doesn't have the DLC, while the Singapore PSN store has it. Region differences are so weird, dude, but I guess they at least partially learned that keeping a DLC exclusive behind a certain number of physical copies might not be the best idea. Hey, I know what you're thinking. Devil Leon 7, what happened to the video? Why did the view switch? What's going on here? I'm about to admit to something very, extremely embarrassing. I was supposed to talk about Dead Souls after Yakuza 4, but somehow I completely forgot to write anything about it in the script. So I went ahead, recorded everything with, you know, the video you've just been watching, and I started editing, and only then I realized, wait, I have some information on Dead Souls in this folder, like some Dead Souls DLC pictures. Well, I forgot. So what I'm gonna be doing now is I will be talking about Dead Souls, but it's going to be a bit different. I'll show some gameplay over me talking, just, you know, about to record what Dead Souls has to offer. So enjoy that, and go ahead and bully me as much as you want. So thankfully, Yakuza Dead Souls' case isn't too complicated. This game came out outside of Japan in March 2012. It had 2 DLCs that were pre-order exclusive for 2 months. So 2 months after release, they launched both on the store for completely free. The first was the Densetsu pack, which mainly had outfits for hostesses that they could wear while they were shooting zombies with you. Also some weapons for them and some goodies for you. And you could collect these from the guy sitting in the back of Kamiyama's van. Keep in mind that Bob's item packs are still there too, so you're just bombarded with a lot of supplies in this game. The second DLC, the obviously better one, comes with the legendary American Patriot outfit for Kiryu. In addition to that, you get a karaoke song that you can access from the main menu, that being Get to the Top of Majima, but now with Kiryu cheering him on. You also get more special items from the same guy in the van, I guess. The most interesting part though is where the DLC description says new cutscenes. Despite loving this game, I think I was today years old when I found out about this. If you go under Reminisce and go all the way down, there's an Extras tab with 3 cutscenes. The first is titled No Zombies, the second is 4 Warriors, and the third is Butterflies of the Night. Just in case they're copyright material, I won't show them here in this video, but after I upload this video, I will attempt to upload the 3 cutscenes in one video. So if you're interested, check that out. And if it's not there right after this video, then that means there's a copyright issue and I apologize for that. Just in case that happens, I'll mention what exactly the cutscenes are about. You're really not missing out on much though. The first cutscene is of Kiryu entering a hostess club in an infected zone, and the staff aim at him until they realize he's not a zombie, and they amusingly go back to business as usual, as if there's no zombie apocalypse. The second is pretty much the end clip of the intro of the game where you see the 4 playable characters assemble, and the third is the shortest clip that just shows all of the hostesses of the game. So considering that all the DLCs became available 2 months after the game's launch for everyone, this is not really the worst kind of DLC. Unless maybe you stopped caring about the game after that, then oops, I guess. Yakuza 5 Original, even though it was digital only, had absolutely no DLC. Well, save for avatars that you can use for your PSN profile. Oh yeah, that reminds me, both Yakuza 3 and 4 also had avatars for you to buy. Actually no, I think Yakuza 3 had none. Yakuza 4 also had a dynamic theme you could buy. Yakuza 4 also had a GameStop pre-order bonus that gave you a hostess dynamic theme. But anyway, yeah, Yakuza 5, no DLC. Probably one of the few complete packages that we got. Yakuza 6 had DLC that, to my knowledge, was purely revolved around clan creator. See, every game that I just mentioned, and every game onwards, or most of them at least, had these weekly updates that gave us item packages, and these item packages sometimes also had costumes, and the items consisted of just a lot of really good items to have, like heals, like armor, weapons, and also gambling cheat items, which is really helpful for completion, or if you just want to make quick money. Yakuza 6 also had those, and you didn't have to pay for them. But you also didn't have to pay for them for any other game, so I don't know why I just mentioned that. Anyway, the Clan Creator DLC on the PlayStation had the following characters that you can use: Daigo, Majima, Kiryu, Date, Akiyama, and Saejima. You can already obtain them for free in-game with codes that you can find online. Just like look up Yakuza 6 Clan Creator codes. But the ones that you buy as DLC are of the highest rarity, which is SSR, like super rare. And they just basically have higher stats than the one that you can get for free. Each of these went for like $2 each, which is not exactly a cheap price if you're looking to get all of them or multiple of them. I don't think there's bundles either, so that comes up to about $12. Luckily, you don't need any of these because, like I said, there is a big list of character codes that they can just find online, and those characters that you get from there will be more than enough to help you with your clan creator journey. So, as far as DLC morality goes, in my opinion, you don't need any of these, so it's whatever, it's fine. With the PC release on Steam, there's actually a bundle that combines all of these characters for just $5, saving you a whole $7, which you can use to help out your boy Devil Leon 7 to— oh, whoa. Fist of the No Star Lost Paradise has a single DLC, and that's the Kiryu Kazuma outfit for just $4. I think this is an instance where the Western release actually handled things better than the Japanese release, because in Japan, you actually had to get the premium version of the game to be able to get the Kiryu skin. And to my knowledge, from what I looked up, you can't get the Kiryu skin from the Japanese PlayStation Store. So, credit where it's due. Thank you, localization team. The Japanese release also had a couple of songs that were part of the premium edition, namely Ai wo Torimose, sorry if I'm butchering that, and Tough Boy. And there's also a set of talismans as well as a bunch of avatars and themes for the PS4. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but all of these were also free with the Western release. I gotta drink some water. Yakuza Kiwami 2 on the PlayStation ramps up the DLC quantity from Yakuza 6, having even more Clan Creator DLC. But this time they remembered to make a bundle for them, so that's nice, I guess. The characters this time around for Clan Creator are the same ones from Yakuza 6, plus Kaoru, Ryuji, and the florist. Daigo is also in his younger version because obvious reasons. The characters by themselves go for $2.29. There's also a bunch of Yakuza 6 themed clan creator packs that bring characters like the wrestlers from Yakuza 6 as well as Onomichio. These packs go for $4.49. There's also an item pack that costs $9, which gives you Majima's dagger to use as a weapon, and also 3 clan creator characters, a costume for Kiryu, and 1 million yen. Lastly, we have a free DLC called the Majima bonus, which gives you a Majima bun, which upon consumption gives you a nice little amount of XP. Pre-ordering this game also gave you a few clan creator cards and a couple of costumes, which if you missed, you were able to buy after the game launched. So, a lot more DLC compared to Yakuza 6, or pretty much any other game, really. But thankfully, just like with Yakuza 6's clan creator, you really don't need any of these characters to be able to get through Kiwami 2's version of clan creator, because you can recruit so many people in this game, it's not even funny. Locking costumes behind DLC, even though they're just cosmetics, kinda sucks for me because, well, I like having multiple costumes in a game. And before that one guy in the back speaks up, the Japanese release also handled the DLC very similarly to how the West did for this game. They had costumes that were either in pre-order bonuses or in the limited edition of the game. And I think either Majima's dagger or the Majima bun was only obtainable if you had the Majima karaoke CD, which came with the limited edition of Kiwami 2 in Japan. One more tidbit, the Steam release of this game gives you everything we just spoke of for just $10. Okay, so I knew the pricing was a bit odd, but I just figured out that I was looking at my local PlayStation store, and in the US, the DLCs are actually a bit cheaper. And the US store also has a whole bundle similar to how Steam does it for $10. God, these regional differences can actually cost you a freaking arm and leg, and I hate it. I hate it. Moving on to Judgment, I'll be talking about the PS4 original release because the PC and the PS5 releases had everything included by default because those are the remaster versions. So there was one free DLC included called the Landlady's Gift Basket, which... I'm sorry, Landlady, but this has to be one of the most worthless free DLCs I've ever seen in my whole life. It gives you 3 types of rice balls and 2 sandwiches, which, such a small deal. Moving on from that, the other DLC is called the All-in-One Pack for $10. You get some office decorations, some drone decorations, 10 play passes for the VR minigame, the super duper OP extracts, and also outfits for the girlfriends, and being able to bring Saori with you and dress her up, which... Okay. So yeah, none of these really seem essential to me, and they won't really affect your experience with the game. Though I do wish the extracts were unlockable in the game because they're pretty cool. So the DLC aside, it's worth mentioning that the original release of Judgment also introduced a trend which, for better or worse, gives you early access to the game. Judgment was set to come out on June 25th in 2019, but if you pre-ordered the game digitally, you were able to play the game on the 21st of June. And I both love and hate this. I love it because who doesn't like playing a game earlier? And I hate it because it made me not bother with getting the physical release of the game because why would I buy the game twice? Okay, I say that as if I haven't bought it on Steam again, but... Anyway, you might be thinking, whoa, hey, Devil Leon 7, use that YouTube shut up. So yeah, honestly, just very mixed bag for me, this whole early access thing. If I had to pick between them doing it and not doing it, I would definitely pick not doing it. Yakuza Like a Dragon had perhaps the most notorious DLC history behind it, particularly with the Japanese release. So with the Japanese release, they pulled a very controversial move, which consisted of them locking a lot of stuff behind DLC, but most notably New Game Plus and difficulties, which, no matter how you think about it, is insane even with the genre shift. Every other Yakuza game at this point had New Game Plus and difficulties as part of the base game. So obviously, me and many other fans spoke out against this decision, and thankfully the Western release of this game decided to integrate all of what I was talking about into the base game, so that's amazing. I'm honestly really glad they did that because it just didn't help at all that this was a turning point for the series with a genre shift, and it just didn't help that many people were skeptical to this game to begin with. And pulling a move like this really just gave people more of a reason to hate the game. So I mentioned New Game Plus and difficulties being DLC, but the list of this DLC actually is a bit more insane than you think. And it just makes you wonder why anyone in the dev team thought this was a good idea. Because honestly, this was probably one of the worst decisions they ever made. Period. So here's a bunch of things that were planned to be DLC alongside what I just mentioned. Being able to go beyond job rank 30 and onto 99, true final Millennium Tower, upgrading your weapons to Kiwami level, a bunch of trophies / achievements, and a few other stuff that don't really matter as much. So, yeah. How the f they thought this was a good idea, I don't know, and I think I don't want to know. Oh, by the way, Japan got all of this as DLC as planned, so I thank my lucky stars that we didn't get the same treatment. My heart goes out to you, fellow fans from Japan. Now, with the crazy part aside, let's talk about the DLC outside of Japan, which actually is kind of shared with Japan, but anyway. Most of it is costumes, and there's also a DLC that gives a job for male characters, which is the Devil Rocker, and also the Matriarch job for the female characters. There's a DLC that gives you story characters to use in the business minigame, and there's a free DLC that gave you... oh god, 4 pachinko games. No thank you. Let's talk about another piece of DLC for Yakuza Like a Dragon that also caused a bit of a fuss. The karaoke set. Priced at $15, this gives you about 23 karaoke songs from past games and from this game as well to play at the jukebox in the hideout. Many people thought this was an attempt at them getting you to pay money to have access to more songs in the karaoke minigame, which fortunately is not the case. But that didn't stop people from misunderstanding and causing a fuss, and you can't blame them honestly. Eventually, they had to add a note on the Steam page for the DLC that says, "Set does not add songs to the karaoke minigame." Honestly, this is like one of the most useless DLCs in the whole franchise, especially for that price. There won't be many people just standing in Survive Bar listening to songs for extended periods of time. So it just makes me wonder, like, who thought this was a good idea for a DLC? Like, just open up YouTube or Spotify or something. I think it would have been a bit cooler, like it would have been something at least if you found these songs like scattered in the game and you were able to just collect them for the jukebox. But charging that much is definitely not enticing at all. So all of this caused a bit of a scare, but it's good that it wasn't what people feared it was going to be. Lost Judgment is the first game in the whole franchise to have a Season Pass. A Season Pass is basically a piece of DLC that includes every DLC that is already available and will be available. So the Season Pass includes the School Stories expansion pack, and that just basically gave you a bunch of extras for the club activities, like some cosmetics for the robotics club, for example. But more importantly, this DLC gave you a 4th fighting style. So because of that, there was also a bit of a controversy, but definitely nowhere near as big as what happened with Yakuza 7. Lost Judgment was still hyping up the new Snake style, so there was still something new to look forward to. I think it does suck that they lock a whole style behind DLC, but even then, it's $5. And even then, it's like my least favorite style in the whole game, so whatever. And you're getting a bunch of other stuff with it, so whatever. The Detective Essential Pack gave you access to 3 more girlfriends to date, whereas the base game had just 1, a bunch of extracts and cosmetics, and also unlocking Shin Amon as a fight in the Gauntlet, which is kind of weird. Thankfully, you're able to fight him just fine normally by, you know, completing all the side cases and school stories. This was just a more direct way of accessing him. Though, I still think it's kind of to make a DLC. Like, whenever they make stuff like, I don't know, like drone skins or just freaking item bundles, it's whatever for me, I don't really care. But stuff like that does kind of sting a bit. This pack is $10. Finally, we have the main course of the Season Pass, the Kaito Files expansion. This expansion is the first of its kind, bringing us a whole roughly 10-hour story where you play as someone that's not the main character. This was priced at $30 and there was a lot of positive reception to it. I still think it was just a little bit overpriced, but that's beside the point. Though generally speaking, I really do want to see more DLCs like this where you're given like a smaller sized story mode with a different character just to kind of play as them, like see how they play out. get to see a little bit of their story, and just give us like this really fun small package. Maybe in the future we'll see the Higashi files or the Sugiura files. Eh? Huh? Ah, man can dream. Lastly, we come to Like a Dragon Ishin. Ishin has always been a bit of a hot topic since its release, mainly because of the whole trooper things that was added to the main combat. Though when it comes to DLC, all of those troopers you can obtain in-game just fine. With troopers, I would understand the frustration if there were some like exclusive DLC exclusive troopers that you're unable to obtain in the main game by just playing normally. But every single trooper that you can buy on the store, you can also obtain by just playing the game. And even assuming there would be like 1 or 2 DLC exclusive troopers, I'm sure the plethora of troopers already in the game would be more than good enough alternatives. There's also a lot of item and material packs, which honestly isn't really anything new. But I've seen a lot of people acting like it's a very recent thing, which it really isn't given what we talked about in this whole video. And others saying like it's ruining the game, which again, how? All of the stuff you can buy in the item packs and the material packs you can obtain in the game without having to pay for anything. I don't mind these packs at all because if you happen to be someone that's really pressed for time or something, then there is a shortcut with these item packs, though I'm not advocating for them or for anyone to spend on them. Now, something that actually really sucks about the Like a Dragon Ishin DLCs, particularly the item and material packs, is that for some reason they're one-time use only. So say for example you buy one material pack, you use it, and that's it, it's gone. If you start a new playthrough, you can't claim it anymore, which is horrible because all of the games previously had these item packs as well that you can claim on subsequent playthroughs. And I also remember seeing a lot of people who had issues downloading the DLC, so some kind of error happened and they didn't get their packs as promised, which was, again, like this particular practice is very kind of mobile game-like, and I don't know what it's doing in a single-player game. Other than that, the most notable DLCs are 2. One of them is called the Shinsengumi's Captain Set, which gives Ryoma a lot of reskins, and also a few head accessories. And then there's the Digital Deluxe upgrade, which does include the Shinsengumi's Captain Set we just talked about, and also it has the exclusive Dragon of Dojima skin. It also has a bunch of like material and item packs, but they're just item and material packs, whatever. So, what did we learn today, dear viewers? The history of weird DLC with the Yakuza franchise goes further back than a lot of people think. Yakuza 3 and 4 were honestly the main reason I wanted to make this video. I was just gonna focus the whole video about them, but I decided, you know what? If I was talking about DLC for 2 games, might as well bring other DLC for the other games and just kind of compare them. Especially because with the Yakuza community, honestly any community really, there's always this mentality of old good, new bad, when the old can have good and bad, and so can the new. It's not all black and white like that, and I just felt it was a bit important to shed light on some particular instances of DLC, you know, especially the first couple ones, Yakuza 3 and 4, because not many people know about those. This is a topic that I don't really see people touch on that much, again, particularly with the older games, because some stuff are kind of lost in time unless you kind of just look it up. But I do hope this was an enjoyable watch and just something informative and that you did learn something out of this video. Even if you didn't learn anything out of this video and just decided to listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here and just watching my content. I already have another video planned for after this video, so look forward to that. But for the time being, I want to say to you, the viewer, thank you so much for watching. Like, I really appreciate, I know I say this a lot maybe, but I really appreciate anyone that just takes the time to watch my stuff. I always have been and will always be grateful to people who choose to support me, whether that's just by watching my videos, staying subscribed on my channel, taking it a step further by becoming a member, which, speaking of members, thank you so much all of you wonderful Hannya members who always go the extra mile to support me. I am really grateful for everything you do for me. You guys always go above and beyond, and I just couldn't be more grateful. And also a big thank you to all of the Dragon members out there. You guys, both of you, Dragon and Hannya members, you go out of your way to support me with your own money, so thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed this kind of different video format where it's just me kind of sitting down with the viewer and talking, I guess. I'm just kind of experimenting, I guess, seeing or trying different video types to see what works, what doesn't work. I really wanted to do a video like this because I feel like, I don't know, like watching videos like this from my personal experience, it kind of feels like you can connect with the YouTuber and the topic a bit more on a closer level. Just, you really feel like you're in the discussion and you feel like you're talking to someone, which I really like that kind of vibe for videos. But yeah, let me know how you found this video. I would greatly appreciate any kind of feedback, so go crazy on those comments. But yeah, seriously, thank you guys so much. You guys take care, stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated. See? I've been staying hydrated too. I'll see you whenever I see you. Bye-bye, you guys. You're still here, aren't you? Here we go again. Don't even try to hide it. Alright, listen, while you're here, I need a moment of your time to tell you about Gamer Subs, the perfect companion for your long gaming sessions. Energy formulas with 0 sugar, 0 calories, and a lot of nutrients that help you stay focused and get any nutrition you're missing out on. Use my link in the description, and upon checking out, make sure to use the code DEVILEON7 for 10% off upon checking out. It would help me out a lot, and even if you take a look and buy nothing else, I would still appreciate it. Now once again, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. But actually, psych, here's an epic fail that happened while I was recording the video. Next up is Yakuza 4, originally coming out for the PlayStation 3 in March 2012.